Shocking to hear Minister Fantino defending the indefensible, standing up today and defending a group that on its website is attacking something that's recognized and protected by Canadian law. So it goes against Canadian values, it goes against Canadian law. And he can't defend that. These types of evangelical groups with vision that goes completely against not only Canadian values but Canadian law are getting Canadian taxpayers' money.
That's NDP leader Thomas Mulcair blasting a Christian charity called Crossroads for being able to access money from Canada's foreign aid budget. Well, this story started in the Canadian press, but then it bloomed in the Globe and Mail. Joining us now from Montreal is a freelance journalist named Justin Ling, who co-wrote the article in Tuesday's Globe and Mail on the Crossroads CEDA contracts. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Ezra, thanks for having me on.
Justin, you're not a staffer with the Globe and Mail. How did you come to write the story for the Globe? Did you pitch it to them?
I did. I pitched it to them because I saw that story in CP, and you know, I didn't think it was all that controversial. I didn't really have an enormous problem with an evangelical group building wells in Uganda, but I decided to do a bit of digging, and I realized that they were doing much more than just building wells with Canadian taxpayer dollars. And I decided that maybe it was worth another story. So I pitched to the Globe, and there was another journalist there already working on the same story, and we collaborated and filed a story about how much money they were getting and about their work elsewhere in the world.
Now, I read that story. We just flashed on the screen. It was also about taking care of orphans in Kenya and AIDS tests, a mobile AIDS test, and also AIDS education. What about that did you think was newsworthy?
I thought it was newsworthy because this group espouses a belief that's relatively radical. I mean, it's not a lot of churches that would go out of their way to say that homosexuality and premarital sex are akin to bestiality and pedophilia and have to be fixed through therapy and intense prayer and work with your priest. There are a lot of churches.
Where did Crossroads say that it's akin to bestiality or pedophilia and have to? Where did Crossroads say that? Did they tell you that on the phone when you called them up?
It was listed right there on their website, and they took it down as soon as CP called them about it, evidently embarrassed.
Now, you said it was akin. I saw what they said. They had a list of what they consider sins, and I see that same list in the Bible. Now, you said that they were comparing homosexuality, bestiality, and pedophilia. Other than having them on the list of sins, was there any comparison?
Well, it had them on a list of assumedly equal sins. And it kind of treated them all in the same breath when talking about how they have to be fixed and how they have to be dealt with. And you know what? I'm willing to give them credit. Maybe it was some rogue intern who was drunk on power and decided to accumulate or to build up this list of crazy sexual sins. But
that
I'd like
list
to know.
is from the Bible.
There's lots of things in the Bible. I mean, we're not supposed to eat shellfish either, but you don't see a lot of Christian groups opposing the Newfoundland fishery, do you?
Right. Now, what did Crossroads say when you called them up for the story?
They didn't answer our phone calls. So the journalist who I was working with put in repeated calls to Crossroads, and they promised to return our interview request, and they didn't. At the end of the day, they promised, and we waited very late to press time, and they never got back to us.
Now, you went on Twitter afterwards, and I read your story in the Globe. It felt like a report, but on Twitter you really let it rip. And I'd like to show some of your Twitter tweets for our viewers. Sure. You were talking to my producer, Ricky Ratliff. You said, if a group is getting federal money and thinks homosexuality has to be fixed, it probably shouldn't be doing HIV and AIDS work. And then you wrote, I'll be honest, I didn't find the initial story to be compelling. An anti-gay group builds wells in Africa, so what? But the one thing that struck me on our follow-up is HIV AIDS counseling. They offered counseling and psychosocial support. And finally, surely we can leave the HIV AIDS fights to groups with more nuanced positions than sexual sins.
Right.
Justin, is it your point of view that Christians who believe in the biblical prohibitions against sexual sins should not be doing foreign aid work that deal with AIDS?
No, that's not really what I was getting at. What I was getting at is that this group holds a radical ideology based on sexuality.
Jesus was a radical, and the Bible is perhaps the most radical document, and it certainly caused more revolutions than anything Karl Marx ever wrote.
But you seem to be thinking that there's this kind of monolithic idea of what sexuality is in the Christian world,
but anyone
and that's
who
not
thinks
true.
that there is such a thing as a sexual sin, are you saying people who believe that homosexuality is a sin shouldn't be allowed to administer to AIDS victims?
No, but that's not what they said on their website, right? They didn't say it was a sin. They said it was a perversion and then it had to be fixed. And I do not necessarily trust them to administer counseling or help or medical aid to someone they consider a perversion. I mean,
now,
that seems to be the problem.
Most AIDS victims in Africa, of course, are not gay. It's a heterosexual disease. They're spread through prostitutes. Are you saying that Christians who hold the views you have ascribed to them, that they shouldn't be allowed to minister to straight victims of AIDS in Africa?
But I mean, it's not just homosexuality they go after on their website. They also talk about fornication, i.e. Premarital sex. And I mean, I realize a lot of Christian churches hold a dismissive view of premarital sex.
You're not answering my question. Are you saying people who let's assume that your caricature of Christianity is accurate? I would debate you on that. But let's say that these people use the language you do, even though that's not actually what was on their website. But let's grant that just for the purpose of debate. Are you saying that people who hold these views should not be allowed to do foreign aid with regards to AIDS victims?
But I mean, you're the one ascribing these views to all of Christianity. I'm talking about this specific.
Okay, are you saying they should not be allowed to do AIDS work
I'm saying we should look into how they deliver services in Africa, and if it does not meet certain basic criteria for CETA AIDS relief, then maybe they shouldn't be getting federal funding. Not to say that they shouldn't be in Africa doing AIDS and HIV work, but they shouldn't be getting federal funding. I know, Ezra, you are very concerned about where our federal tax dollars are going, and this, I think, is a reasonable place to invest in.
An enormous amount of foreign aid is done by Christians. They're motivated by their belief in the Bible. I don't see that same foreign aid emphasis by groups like EGAL or the other gay rights lobbyists.
No,
I mean, they focus on politics. If we were to take every Christian out of foreign aid, who would be doing this AIDS work in Africa? I mean, you're not interested in it. I don't know. I actually don't know a single gay activist who actually goes overseas to do the mucky work. I mean, it's all politics and fun, but who would do it if the Christians don't?
What about the United Church? The United Church is a very gay-affirming church that has a lot of homosexuals in the church, and they do an enormous amount of African.
So gay-affirming church is okay, but more fundamental church
the Catholic Church, there are numerous churches who do this work who are okay with gays.
Okay, so Justin, can you come up with a list of churches that are acceptable to get government money and a list of churches that are unacceptable? For example, where would the Pentecostals fall?
I don't know.
That's why I think CETA should.
It's not for me to decide.
Well,
it's not for me to decide.
But you have a strong opinion on it. But you have a strong opinion on it. I mean, you're a gay activist yourself.
I'm not a gay activist.
Well, you've written for Extra magazine, which is a avowedly gay activist magazine.
It's a gay magazine, and I'm gay, and I like myself, so yes, I'm pro-gay, if that's what you're getting at.
Well, but the magazine itself, right on their mission statement, says that, that their whole purpose is to advance, quote, advance the struggle for sexual liberation. Extra magazine is a lobbying magazine. You work for them, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm saying, why should you choose who can and can't get government money based on religious belief? Isn't that a form of bigotry?
No, I absolutely shouldn't. What I'm saying is that I would like for CETA to have the capacity to look at these groups and see if their religious ideology has an impact on the way they deliver services. Okay, I think that's entirely reasonable.
Okay, so if someone is delivering a service in Africa that does not involve evangelism or Christian missionary work, can they still be a fundamentalist Christian in your books? Yeah, I mean, any group can be fundamentalist. Any group that's delivering services like this can be a fundamentalist group. I think this could be true of left-wing groups, right-wing groups. Why don't you just say yes or no? If someone is a Christian fundamentalist and holds the Bible to be the literal truth and thinks that homosexuality is a perversion, is it okay by you for them to get government money to go build a latrine or go do AIDS prevention work? Or is their own personal view prohibiting them from doing something else involving the state?
Well, this is an important distinction. A personal view, I don't have a problem with. I mean,
it's a religious view.
Well, I mean, if the view of the missionary who's going over there is that homosexuality is a sin and a perversion and so on, that's not necessarily a problem. My concern would be if the group as a whole doing the work feels the need to go out of their way and point out that they don't agree with his lifestyle, they don't agree with his perversion. I think that's entirely reasonable.
I don't think you're answering my questions, Justin. I'm grateful to you for coming on the show. We have debates here on The Sun, the whole perspective. You're a part of that debate, Justin. You're a sport for coming on a show where you knew I disagree. Take care, my friend. We'll talk again.
Cheers.